If you did not think that composition is important, then you are wrong. Seriously, composition could make or break your piece. It could be a big fat no to a collector down the road. Also, a bad composition can just drive you nuts forever and ever as long as you look at the piece. I've had that happen to me many times and I don't like it. This video is going to be the nuts and bolts and background and why composition is so important and how do you avoid making a bad one. Now, the good news about composition is you don't have to create the most astounding, amazing composition the world has ever seen, although you could do that. But the main thing is don't make a bad one. That's all you have to worry about. Do not make a bad composition. You don't necessarily have to make a good one, just don't make a bad one. If you make a bad one, it could deter people from ever liking your art. And as long as you have a decent one that doesn't have any big red flags, then people will enjoy your art and there won't be anything stopping them. So what is composition? Composition is basically the packaging of your idea right on the canvas. So it's the arrangement of the subjects that you're painting. So how you place them on the canvas. It uses all of the elements of art within composition. So if you are, it doesn't matter if it's texture, line, form, value, depth, anything relating to the elements of art, composition will utilize those in order to package your artwork in a pleasing way. Also, composition makes you the director of the movie. So just like how movies are paced out, there's always the lead actress, and then there's a supporting actress, and then there's extras, there's background, maybe even music and sound plays into that. And also how your eye leads around to what the director wants you to look at. So there's a lot of things in movie scenes that go unnoticed, but they're designed to set something else up. And it's the same thing in your painting. And that's really what composition is. It's knowing how to set up your piece to lead the eye around in a certain pace so that they arrive at a certain area that you want them to look at. And the more intentional you get about this, the better your art is going to be. Now, you can start out in, the basics of composition, avoiding the mistakes, and then at least you don't have a composition that deters people from buying your art. But as you grow as an artist, as you improve, as you work on composition, as you get better and better at this, then you will actually be able to command the ship. You will be able to manipulate the audience to look at your art in a certain way and to arrive at the focal point or where you want them to look intentionally. And that is a really good feeling. So I'm going to give you all the clues and tools that you need in order to do that. And you're going to discover your own along the way. A good composition will also keep the viewer engaged long enough to connect with the artwork so that they actually buy it. So composition can do that. It can keep the viewer engaged. Now, this is a little bit interesting, but composition actually comes subconsciously from within. Every single one of us has this sort of internal composition. There's an Elli composition. Elli has her favorites of what she likes to do, and it has everything to do with who I am. So composition actually does play into voice. Now you have your own composition. Each of us, like a thumbprint, has our own unique composition. Sometimes I can tell an artist immediately by the way that they compose their pieces. Your composition does come from within, but you can also learn tricks, you can learn things academically that can actually influence your composition. So don't be thinking like, oh, I just want to remain pure and not knowing about composition so my true composition can come out. It's not like that. Knowing the rules and knowing how it all works is only going to enhance the composition that's inside of you. So if we look at what we have here, this is sort of the first stop of background of composition. The first group of people that we know of that really considered composition are the ancient Greeks. It happened at about 500 BC, and then it really happened at about 300 BC. So Pythagoras kind of picked up on it mathematically when making the Parthenon here, which happened in about 450 BC. they intentionally tried to create it according to the golden ratio or the golden rectangle. So it's called divine proportion, golden rectangle, or golden ratio. So those are all basically one and the same. It later evolved into the Fibonacci sequence, which I'm going to explain in a minute. So what is this proportion? Basically, if you look at this measurement right here, it is, let's say, one part. Then from here to here, that is 1 plus a 0.6. So it's 1 to 1.6. And this can just go round and round and round into a spiral or a nautilus. So the repetition of that proportion spiraling inward is basically the golden rectangle. And really it's Euclid, from the mathematician at around 300 BC, that actually consciously got it down to an actual mathematical equation of 1 to 1.6, because he noticed that everything in nature, even our body, everything is measured by those proportions, all things created. So if you look at, whether you look at our ear or you look at the proportion of the corner of our eye to the pupil from the middle of the bridge of the nose, or our teeth, everywhere on the face, all those proportions to each other measure out in a 1 to 1.6, no matter who we are. Here is another example with this insect here. From, the head in proportion to the body is, the head is 1 and the body is 1.6. The body here is 1, whereas the third part of the body, or the larger part of the body, is a 1.6. Same thing with the bird. It's absolutely fascinating. If you look at anything in nature, you will find the golden ratio or divine proportion. Now, the human body is filled with divine proportion. Everything. Whether it's this knuckle to this knuckle, or it's this finger to the hand, or it's the hand to the forearm, any of those proportions in our body, inside and out, are divine proportion. Even our brain, believe it or not. Well, this is from Johns Hopkins University, and what they did is they created this formula here of the golden ratio. The red line here represents C, and the blue line here represents B, and then the whole represents A. So they created this formula, and it equals 1.6. So the way our brain and the functionality of it is proportioned out is according to the golden ratio. So not only are our brains and actually in functionality and physicality according to the golden ratio, but also our DNA. It's crazy. Even our DNA is this proportion of 21 to 34, which happen to be, what I'm going to talk about next, numbers in the Fibonacci sequence. So this is how they measure a DNA strand, a complete one, and it equals out to a 1.6. So what is the Fibonacci sequence? So Leonardo of Pisa, or Fibonacci, came up with this in 1202, and he discovered it, or, he obviously knew about the golden ratio, but he also saw that this happens in nature, whether it's a fountain bubbling, the way leaves are sprawled out from the wind, or how rabbits populate. You will find this mathematical sequence. So what is the sequence? So by starting with 0 and 1, what you do is you take the two numbers and you add it to the next. So 0 plus 1 equals 1, 1 plus 1 equals 2, 2 plus 3 equals 5, 3 plus 5 equals 8, 5 plus 8 equals 13, and so on and so on. And before long, you're at 4,181. So basically, by adding all these numbers, if you do it long enough, before long, as you can see, you're already at 4,181. So how in the world does this relate to the golden ratio? Well, what you find is this Fibonacci sequence, this mathematical sequence, fits perfectly inside the golden ratio. So 5 to 8 is a 1 to 1.6 relationship. And 8 to 13 is a 1 to 1.6 relationship. 13 to 21 is a 1 to 1.6 relationship, and so on. So 21 to 34, 1 to 1.6, 34 to 55, 1 to 1.6, and so on. Isn't that fascinating? Amazing. Now, what in the heck does that have to do with composition? Well, as you can see, this Fibonacci sequence, the golden rectangle, the divine proportion is in everything created, all things created. And sometimes intentionally when man creates, because we intentionally do it. But all things in nature have this sequence. So we're completely acclimated towards it. Whenever you are having a conversation with your friend or your spouse and you're staring into each other's eyes, you are registering divine proportion. Whenever you look at your hands, you're registering divine proportion. As you walk on your legs that you walk on are walking according to divine proportion. Your brain and how your different brain function is allocated is according to divine proportion. So our thoughts even are within the composition of our brain, within the composition of the golden ratio. It's extremely familiar to us on a very subconscious level. We automatically register with it. Whenever we see compositions, paintings that fit within divine proportion, we feel comfortable, we feel peaceful, we feel like, oh, this is right. And when we see a composition that sort of defiles golden ratio or divine proportion or the Fibonacci sequence, it feels jarring to us. It feels unnatural, like something is wrong. So that is what it has to do with golden ratio. Okay, so what are these rules that you want to remember? I broke it down. Now, there probably is more rules than this, but I found about 10 rules that I really try to live by in composition. Sometimes rules are made to be broken. And if you do it right, it can make your piece really powerful. So don't think of this as this rigid box I'm stuffing you into. Just think of it as best practices, good rules to think about, know them through and through. And if you ever do break them, let it be intentional and for a good reason. Rule number 1, rule of thirds, golden spot for a focal point. Now, a lot of people misunderstand the focal point. A lot of people think focal point is the first thing the eye sees. And that is not true, at least for a good focal point. It's where the eye lands. So you're kind of led in from the bottom here. You catch her foot, you go up her white dress, and you land at the kiss. Okay, so it's where our eye lands. If you create a bullseye and it's the first thing you see and your eye never goes anywhere else and it just darts right there and it stays, then you're missing the whole point of composition. Composition is meant to engage the audience, to lead in like the director of the movie at a certain pace, wind around, curve around, see all the things, and then land where you want them to look. If you think back to Caravaggio's piece, right? We come in usually at this elbow, we go up and look at all these faces, we see his face, and we come down and we land here. And then we kind of go back around this way, up, down, around. So we just keep traveling throughout, but you always land, you rest right here. You rest where all the things point to and where that area of interest is. So where your eye lands is the actual focal point. So the rule of thirds is you break up your canvas into 3 equal parts, both vertically and horizontally. Everybody's familiar with the rule of thirds because you have a phone, right? So on your phone, they have this so that you can create good compositions when you're taking a picture. So rather than putting the dog smack dab in the middle, let's put the focal point where we want the eye to go on one of these points. So this is a good spot, this is a good spot, this is a good spot, or this is a good spot. So focal point, where to put your focal point is super boring. It's basically one of 4 spots. Don't put it in the middle, don't put it on an edge, put it somewhere near one of those 4 corners. Super simple. Okay, odd numbers, create an odd numbers. So as you can see, the painting on the left feels more dynamic than the one on the right. The one on the left has 3 flowers. They're all different sizes. And the one on the right has 4 flowers. I mean, okay, technically there's 7, but we're not counting those little buds because they're dramatically different. The 4 big flowers are all basically the same. And so it's very stagnant. It will ruin any kind of dynamic movement of the eye. So that's why that rule is there. Now, you can break this rule by having two. You can put two people in a painting. There's nothing wrong with that. But what you would do then is arrange your composition where you don't have two people standing side by side, not even touching. You connect them so they're sort of one piece. That's how you deal with two. Rule number 3, thinking about positive and negative shape. Then you can divide your piece up into 3 unequal parts. Number 5, create overlap and not tangent edges. Number 6, touch the edge of the canvas in 3 sides. Cropping must be compositionally sound. Number 8, no triangles in the corner. Bottom heavy. Avoid your compositions that are bottom heavy. The 10th rule is dynamic, not symmetrically stagnant. Lastly, I just want to apply some of what we've learned to choosing better source photos, because thinking about composition, even in choosing your subjects, even in choosing, the photos that you might paint from, I think is important. You don't want your compositions leading to no sales. I think if you just know these 10 rules and you keep them at hand, then you look at that source and you can go through each of the 10 rules and check them off. Pretty soon, that'll be second nature to you. You won't even have to think about it. You'll just naturally create great compositions every time.